Part of me just wants to go into your Guild Wars 2 rant and your thoughts on
But I'm
what.
not there yet. Like, let's let them finish their thought. It could get worse, but it could also get better. Like, it's possible that all of these fixes are just
See,
a
there's
little
the
bit,
title of the video right
a
there.
little bit
Right
deeper.
there is it could get
Oh, I've
worse.
already
It could
filmed
get
this,
better.
and I watched it, and I was like, man, that guy is angry. Uh, but I'm not. Like, I
You
like the
are.
game.
It's so funny because that's why I even
There's
tweeted.
20
I
minutes
even
of like,
put a poll
whoa.
out today on Work to Game because I knew you're playing Guild Wars 2, and when
Because
I
I
play
went and
with
filmed.
you,
I went and filmed because I was like, and I filmed right after playing. And so I filmed like right after I was like, I'll be in a great mood. But then as I went to log out, there was like a series of just like, I tried to do something and the UI was like, no. And then I tried, and so then I was like, all right, we'll record. And I was like, yeah, I mean, there's a couple of problems. The problems are terrible. This game frustrates the living daylights out of me. How can you take such a beautiful combat system and such a cool open world design and lock it behind the world's worst UI?
you're such a simp for WoW, dude. Like I love you so much, but you're such a simp for WoW. WoW does so much bullcrap all the time, and it's like I'll hear you
And I
explain
have
it away.
add-ons, and it runs in whatever monitor I want. And I can adjust my game settings from the launcher. That's all I want.
Oh my gosh, it just makes me laugh because we're playing with you, like, and generally, like, I'm just having a good time. Sure, there's problems, but like, you have some inherent need that you have to, I guess,
No,
balance
I had
it.
two friends that I was in Discord, and it was the three of us, and they were downloading the game for the very first time. And one of them had to leave Discord because the game audio was too loud, and you cannot adjust the game audio until you are out of character creation.
All right, so
And it
talk
is
to
their
me. We're
first
just
ever
yeah.
MMO.
We're just gonna make this a video, and then we'll do the whole sponsor thing because at the core of it, this is such interesting. Like you have so much passion in it. So what is it about Guild Wars 2? What's up, Workforce? We're doing this thing live. Let's F it. We're doing it live. What is it about Guild Wars 2 like that? Because you want to experience it as raw as possible, but
I do. And first I want to say today's video is brought to you by, guys, I'm sure you have heard of Audible. They are the leading provider of spoken entertainment worldwide. They have everything from audiobooks to comedy to podcasts. But I am currently using them, and they are currently bringing this video to you. I am currently listening to Theft of Swords by Michael J. Sullivan, narrated by the fantastic Tim Gerard Reynolds. It's a nice adventure that I listen to while I'm mowing the lawn or doing something in the garden, and it's something that can help keep me immersed in a fantastic world, the way video games do when I am away from my keyboard and mouse. That brings my entertainment to me here. So it's just a great way of taking that entertainment on the go. And if you would like to try it, keep in mind that new members can always try Audible for up to 30 days on them. So definitely go give that a shot. If you'd like to go ahead and support Work to Game in the process, I encourage you to visit audible.com/work2game or text work to game to 500 to get started.
we'll do a couple more videos. I do want to talk to you about Blue Mage today, but I really, honestly, it's Guild Wars because like this is the most interesting things that I'm watching. You played a quest. Like I put this on our Work to Game channel specifically because I was like, Chris is playing Guild Wars. There's gonna be something that pisses him off because another game has fixed it.
Thoughts on this game yet?
I know, because another game has fixed it, and all of a sudden you're like, you ran into a red wall, and you had how many times did you restart that quest today?
Third try. The quest can be beaten in the third try.
So why did you sit down and film a video that then you went on a Twitch rant about your stance against the first impressions?
So I don't like when initial impressions are too soon.
Okay.
And so the question is, when is too soon?
Okay.
And for everybody, that's going to be different. In an MMO, 40, 60, 80, 100 billion% of the content is going to be locked behind level cap.
Yeah.
And so the initial serving in an MMO, in my opinion, is the initial level grind.
Okay.
That opens all the content. That lets you get a first step into a lot of them. You're probably doing a lot of things wrong. It's confusing. It's overwhelming. You still don't know what you're talking about, but you've made the initial serving.
Okay.
Now, that initial serving in some games that have been around for a long time is enormous. And so you may have to kind of justify, like, well, maybe in Final Fantasy, let's say, can you get out of ARR? because like I can't ask you to get to level cap because
Right.
current level cap's like 300 hours and you're not allowed to talk.
My
until
first impressions pre-level 30.
Right. And so the question becomes like, where is that line?
Yeah.
And the reason for that is I want to give the chance. Sometimes like when you do a reaction video, right, you pause the video and you say, well, I wish they'd said it like this. And then you unpause the video and they say it like that. Now you can't not do that because you don't know if it's coming, because you haven't seen the future. And so if you don't say it, then you might get to the end of the video and you never interrupted with your thought and they never said it either. And so it doesn't get said. But with an impressions video, it's not a reaction video where I'm pausing the game to record as I go. It's after consuming. And so I want to give them the chance to give me one full meal, even if I'm going to come back and I'm going to order different entrees at different times. I'm going to try other classes. I'm going to try other ways of leveling. I'm going to try all these other aspects of the game. I want to go through one initial serving, and just to make sure I'm not missing something, just to make sure I'm not giving them a chance to answer a question I've had. And all of my questions with Guild Wars so far have been like, why do I not know what I'm doing? And like, I like sandbox games, but I also want, if I ask a question, and there is an in-between.
Yeah.
There is, I left you in the middle of the desert with whatever was in your backpack and no plan. And then there is a completely guided roller coaster of an experience where you are on the tracks and you can't get off. There are in-betweens. Those are not the only two forms of existence. And so I just want that very, like, when you're teaching your kids to ride a bike for the first time, you're not just going to take the training wheels off their bike without telling them and then just push them down the driveway and go back in the house. Like, you're gonna be there so that if they fall down, you can help them. And right now, I'm watching my friends get into this game for the first time and fall down, and there's nobody. And then people are like, why do more people not play this game? Because they all skin their knees and go home. It's a good game. It's worth it. I can already tell you, I'm not even there, and I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm still playing.
So so we're on the topic of the initial impression, but what you described to me starts to sound like a review. Like in the terms of like when you're streaming, when we're talking about it, like you have an initial impression. You took that initial impression and you told your friends to come and play that game. You sat down and filmed a video of that initial impression, but now it sounds like you're obviously having a more evolved thoughts. You want to have a well-rounded kind of approach to when you sit down and put something out on the internet forever. How is that different from what you would consider a review? So if that's what your definition of an impression is, what is your definition of a review?
I think a review is once you have a more well-rounded opinion. And so I think at that point, at a restaurant, you've tried multiple dishes, or you've gone with people who then tried other dishes, so that you're not judging an entire restaurant based off of one waiter, one evening, one dish. Because then if, you write up that review and you're like, yeah, and the food is dry and it's late to the table and they're rude. And it's like, you just said an entire establishment did this. And like, how do you know they're not just bad at that one dish? And so I think at that point you need to play around, like in a PvP based game like this, like the fact that I haven't played World versus World, shut your mouth. Like you can't, like you're not ready to talk about Guild Wars until you've played World versus World, because it's referenced in every single video, every single creator. I haven't gone more than 10 minutes of watching a stream without World versus World being either on screen or mentioned in chat or verbally. It is there. It is present. I don't have mounting unlocked, and everybody's like, oh, well, wait till you unlock mounting. It would be stupid to not have my mount unlocked before putting out something and calling it a review, right? And so like, you don't have to watch every single cutscene through Final Fantasy to have a feel for whether or not the story is there, but you need to have tried some story. You can't be like, I bought the story skip and I think the game has too much narrative. Based on what? So like you don't have to be a master 10,000 hour level player. And so I think there's three very different points. There's the initial impressions, which is just straight up, I've tried this, I don't know what I'm doing, and here's how I feel. There's a review which says, here's an objective measure of what the game has, here's what people say about that game, and here's where I stand on those things. And then there's expert level people who are like, I've mastered the game and I am ready to put out like a PhD analysis. Now, each of those has a range, but as an individual content creator, I think it's a little weird if I put out all 17 versions of initial impressions and 17 version of reviews. Like, what am I supposed to say? Here's my initial impression 1. Here's my initial impression 2. Here's my initial impression 3. Somewhere by like initial impression 14, somebody's going to go, is this just a Guild Wars 2 initial impression channel? Like, what is happening? And he feels differently in all of them. So I think pick 1, maybe 2, and be done with your initial impressions. And so if you want to do that after your first hour of play, that's fine. But you're kind of giving up the ability to have an initial impressions at the end of the core content. Because it's a little weird if guys, my content schedule for April is I'm going to put out initial impressions on Guild Wars every Monday. Like, that's so weird. So I think that's where it comes from, of like, pick your thought and move on. I'm not ready to pick my thought. I don't feel I've given it enough of a chance.
V-Reckon says, classic 15 initial impressions. Yeah, absolutely.
At that point, I feel like you got to react to your own reactions.
Yeah.
You got to react to your own
classic YouTube stuff, right? Like,
yeah. So on Mondays, I put out my initial impressions on a game I've already put out initial impressions on. On Tuesdays, I react to previous initial impressions. I don't actually ever play the game.
Well, there are YouTubers that is true. Like, that is.
It's probably why we don't have 1 million subs.
Yeah, exactly. We're not crushing it. We're playing the games. We're poorly playing the YouTube game. It's like, okay, what are you actually doing here? Well, we decided we'd focus more on actually playing the game.
Game channel, I'd play the game. Well, that's your first mistake. What a waste of time.
You magnificent beast, you. So let's kind of pivot, because there's something really important in this regard. So you have been doing this. This is your second Friday with Guild Wars 2. You had a horrible week. Let's not beat around the bush.
I did.
Chris had and not like you guys showed up on stream, but it was that internet issues. My week this week has been just insane. Like, we've got a thing we're doing tonight. It's gonna kind of free up a little bit of the evenings, free up a little bit of the chaos. That's just how life is. But you've had a horrible week, and then we're talking this morning, filming our video for today, and you're like, I'm gonna go play WoW. I go, no, like, today's Guild Wars 2 day. But the good news is
the calendar, and he's right. Oh no. I don't even know my own calendar.
You even promoted WoW yesterday. I was like, what? But the thing is that if you guys aren't aware, like, going forward into April, you're actually going to dedicate a full day to Guild Wars 2. So it's like, which
tells a much bigger story than my words.
Well, exactly, because like the thing that I know we've been gaming and playing for well over a decade. And so I'm watching you stream, and that's why I knew you're going to rant. Because, like, the real reality of it, I don't know if you know this about yourself, but sometimes it's like, this is my impression of you. Whenever Chris steps into a situation that there's a little bit of uncomfortableness where it's like, I know, like, if he knows how to play Destiny, he knows how to shoot a gun. But if all of a sudden Destiny was like, I pulled the trigger and the gun didn't fire, Chris is going to be ultimately frustrated by it, even if there's a reason or something behind that. But it's that gap from getting you from, like, why is it this way? And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I get it, that Chris rants. Like, it's just what he does. And so we're playing it, and it's like, okay, da-da-da. And so he'll just kind of go on these rants, because I'm, like, he's a generally positive person. Like, he's also a very optimistic person, but I crush him in that department. So sometimes, like, when the two of us get together, he sometimes feels like he has to sometimes represent the additional or the opposite opinion.
Somebody is not going to have a perfect experience with the games we play.
Yeah. 100%.
I don't want that person to feel awful just because I'm like, this game's wonderful, and you're like, yeah, this game is wonderful, and then end video. Like, am I wrong? It's like, no, there are reasons not to like this.
YouTube's doing the whole shorts thing. Work the game just goes to, like, making shorts. This game is great. I agree. Next video. But it's interesting to watch, because the thing that people, especially because, like, from the Guild Wars 2 community, not trying to step on toes. Like, you don't want to come in and be like, oh, your game sucks, boom, hate clicks, baby. But the core of it is that, like, Chris is actually having a really good time. The more Chris rants about something, the more it seems that he's pissed off about something, is that it's completely tied into the fact that he's still playing it. Destiny 2, despite, like, its issues, like, when you step into the game, it hooks you on the gameplay right away. you can then filter out all the BS. Same thing with Guild Wars. Like, you immediately feel it impactful. So guys, continue to show up for his Guild Wars 2 streams, but maybe we'll see what happens. I honestly can't wait for your first impressions, because it's just like, you have such an interesting philosophy behind it, and it's interesting to try to define that, because in the landscape of the YouTube algorithm, like, okay. Yeah, people put out 15, first impression videos. Okay. Anyway,
that is the answer. I don't know. Because I know so many times, like, I ask a question, I don't see the answer, I'm frustrated by that. They give the answer, I'm okay. I try hard not to film in the middle, because it's not an accurate representation of the whole story.
Yeah. I love
all they did was pose a question and pause on the answer. And that is a form of delivery that can come from either delays in development, that can come from the answer was a result of community feedback, that can come from that was by design in the first place. And that's okay. There are some things about Guild Wars 2 that are not okay. Mm-hmm. The fact that the launcher does not have the ability to adjust audio and display settings prior to starting the game and getting through character creation for the very first time is an assumption that everybody likes their default system settings. And that's just not accurate. And that's a sign that you had a room full of 100 devs who use their default audio and their default display settings. And they're like, yeah, I booted up the game, it ran fine. Great. Have you ever tried anything other than default? Why would I? And then that was the end of that meeting. And that's just not how, you can't say that about, well, I hope we have 20 million players. Okay, do you think there are 20 million people exactly like you? Yeah. Okay. And so then Brian's like, why is this game not bigger? Because they didn't design it to be bigger. They designed it to catch everybody like them, and then they stopped. And Final Fantasy and Guild and WoW don't do that, and they're not perfect by any means. WoW is in the middle of a unintentional but expected content drought. They are going to be over 100 days from a wonderfully received expansion launch to the first patch. And there is just burnout and just people bailing in mass.
But isn't that the same category as BFA? Like, doesn't that say that people are here just for a little bit?
BFA had structural issues. It was not a lack of content. It was like, it wasn't just burnout. It was actively, there were problems with the core stuff too. Okay. Azerite was an enormous problem. So they had to spend 9.1 fixing things. Shadowlands just needs to put out more content. We just need more of it.
I want to call out two comments on live that just cracked me up. Rook wants to see you talk to yourself in a past video, so hopefully we'll get to see that on. And they named Chili renamed your channel Ranting Kinda, but ultimately Rick says this is Brian's first initial impressions of Chris after a few decades. So not that we'll save the review for when we've experienced all of Chris when he's. Chris is retired.
Eulogy. That's a little depressing.
Well, it doesn't have to be a eulogy. We can always eulogize you when you're alive. It's like, that's a whole thing.
I know. Have you seen when those leak? Because companies, to be ready, the media outlets, they have those pre-written for celebrities so that they're not trying to spin that up. And every once in a while they'll leak. And so the New York Times has eulogies for sitting presidents, celebrities. They have these like having your LinkedIn profile updated with your resume. They have all of their life stuff, and it's written in past tense, and every once in a while they'll leak, and it's just a disaster. One will just slip out, and it's they're not dead. But it does make you wonder. I mean, it's how we got the Nobel. I mean, the Nobel Prize didn't come out of a leak like that, but the Nobel Prize came out of a guy going, "This is not what I want to leave as a legacy." So I don't know. Maybe there's something to it.
Maybe there's something. All right, guys. That's Chris's and our non-initial impressions, our continuing journey into the world of Guild Wars 2. Stick around for another video. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about Blue Mage. And we'll also maybe even address the mentor system, that conversation. So, for Work to Game, my name's Brian.
My name's Chris.
Thanks so much for watching. We hope to see you at our next one. But until then,
take care.